The ship Iron Hope moved slowly through the dark space near the border of alien territory. It was not a big warship. It was an old cruiser, carrying a small crew of humans who had been given the task to scan the region. The mission was not meant to be dangerous. Their orders were simple: map the outer lanes, record strange signals, and then return to base. Many of the crew thought of it as a quiet job, something that would give them rest after harder assignments. Aaron, the acting commander, stood on the bridge with his eyes fixed on the stars. He had served for many years, and he trusted his instincts. Something about the silence outside made him uneasy. The border regions had always been dangerous. This space was controlled by the alien race known as the Dirine. They were powerful, proud, and hostile. Most human ships tried to avoid them, but the Iron Hope had been ordered to pass close enough to gather information. Myra, the ship's systems officer, noticed the commander's expression and asked quietly, "Do you think they know we are here?" Aaron answered in a calm voice, though his mind was heavy. "If they know, they will wait until we are too deep to escape. That is how they hunt." The crew tried to remain relaxed. Some worked at their stations, some watched the sensors, and others prepared food in the mess hall. Yet deep inside, every person felt a shadow of worry. Humans had fought the Dirine before. Those battles had always ended with heavy losses. Hours passed in silence. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered. Alarms rang through the corridors. Red lights flashed across the bridge as Myra called out, "Energy spikes detected. Multiple signatures. They are around us." Aaron shouted, "Shields up, engines to full." The crew moved quickly, but it was already too late. From the darkness of space, hidden platforms revealed themselves. Beams of green fire struck the Iron Hope. The shields lasted only a few seconds before collapsing. Consoles sparked, and the floor shook under the impact. The crew struggled to keep their balance. Another strike hit the engines, and the ship slowed to a crawl. Aaron gripped the side rail. He knew this was a trap set long ago. The Dirine had been waiting. "Return fire," he ordered, but the weapon officer shook his head. "Cannons offline. Power cells drained." More hits landed. Metal tore, and the ship spun slightly, drifting off course. Sparks rained down inside the bridge. Aaron could see fear in the eyes of his crew. He felt it too, but he refused to show it. The comm system came alive with a deep alien voice. "Human vessel, you are broken. You are weak. Surrender, and we may let you live to tell your kind of their failure." Aaron's jaw tightened. He pressed the comm button. "This ship will not surrender." The alien voice laughed, cold and mocking. "Then you will serve as an example. Others will see your broken hull and remember their place." Before Aaron could reply, another volley struck the Iron Hope. The bridge dimmed as systems failed. The ship had no power left to resist. Engines were dead, weapons silenced, shields gone. The crew could do nothing but hang on as the Dirine ships moved closer. Myra whispered, "We cannot fight them. They will take us." Aaron looked at his crew. He saw young faces filled with fear but also determination. Humans were not known for giving up, even when the situation was hopeless. "If they take us," he said, "we endure. If they destroy the ship, then let them remember that we did not bow." The aliens sent boarding pods. Heavy claws latched onto the hull, and soldiers poured inside. The crew of the Iron Hope fought with sidearms and makeshift weapons, but the enemy numbers were too great. One by one, they were captured. The ship that had once carried human hope now drifted powerless in space. The Dirine marked it as a victory. They spread the message across their territories: another human ship broken, another warning sent. To them, it was nothing more than a small event, a reminder of their superiority. But to Aaron and his captured crew, the story was not finished. Even in chains, even in defeat, humans carried a spark. The Iron Hope would not be forgotten. Somewhere, someone would hear of its fall. And when they did, they would rise. The wreck of the Iron Hope floated in silence, but inside its torn frame, the seeds of something greater were already waiting. What the Deerine saw as the end would soon become the beginning of a legend. The wreck of the Iron Hope drifted among broken metal and forgotten machines. The Deerine had left it in a graveyard of ruined ships, a place filled with silence and shadows. They believed the humans had been shamed, and the vessel would rot like all the others. But humans had a different way of seeing broken things. To them, ruins were not the end. Ruins were a beginning. Far away, in a hidden mining colony, a group of human engineers listened to whispers of the destroyed cruiser. One of them was Aaron's old friend, a quiet but determined man named Aaron himself had once fought beside. His name was also Aaron's, but the universe held many people with the same name. This one was older, a builder rather than a soldier. He did not carry a weapon, but he carried a vision. When news of the Iron Hope reached him, he made a choice. He would not let that ship remain as a trophy of defeat. He would bring it back. Aaron gathered a small team of workers, miners, and technicians. Among them was Myra, who had survived the capture and later escaped the alien prisons through courage and luck. She carried scars but also knowledge of what had happened on that ship. When she saw Aaron again, her eyes were tired, but her voice was steady. If we rebuild it, we must rebuild it stronger. They broke it once. We cannot allow that again. The journey to the wreck field was dangerous. Alien patrols watched the borders, and the Deerine often returned to strip useful parts from the graveyard. But the humans knew how to hide. They used old cargo haulers disguised as waste collectors. They flew in silence, their engines cold to avoid detection. After weeks of careful movement, they reached the graveyard. The sight before them was haunting. Dozens of ships, both human and alien, floated lifeless. Some were half melted, others torn in two. The Iron Hope lay at the center, its hull blackened and torn open. Yet even in ruin, it still looked proud. Its frame was scarred, but its spirit seemed unbroken. Aaron felt a pull in his chest as he guided his team closer. Boarding the wreck was dangerous. The halls were filled with twisted metal and collapsed walls. But as they walked through, Myra touched the walls gently. "It is not dead," she whispered. "It is only waiting." Aaron and his team set up small lights and began their work. They cleared rubble, carried tools, and brought in energy packs to restore a few systems. At first, the job seemed impossible. The engines were crushed, the weapons were gone, and the main core was nothing but ash. Many in the team doubted they could save it. But humans were known for one thing: they refused to stop. Piece by piece, they began to rebuild. Old mining drills were reshaped into armor plates. Broken power cells were combined into something new. Every part they found in the graveyard was tested and placed into the Iron Hope. Slowly, the ship began to change. It was not the same cruiser anymore. It was becoming something different, something greater. Myra worked tirelessly on the systems. She rewired circuits, combining human design with scraps of alien technology. Many times, the systems sparked and failed, but she tried again until they held. Aaron focused on the frame, reinforcing the bones of the ship so it could take hits stronger than before. Other workers built rail weapons out of scavenged coils and magnetic rings. The work was secret, done in silence and shadows. Every day, they feared discovery. Alien patrols passed close to the graveyard, but the humans hid their activity by powering down and covering their lights. They moved only when safe, and when danger came too near, they blended among the broken ships. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The Iron Hope no longer looked like a broken vessel. Its hull grew stronger. Its shape became sharper. The humans spoke of it in whispers, giving it a new name among themselves. They called it the Dawn Project, for they believed it would bring light into a dark galaxy. One evening, as they gathered in the old mess hall of the ship, Myra spoke to the group. "We are not only rebuilding a ship. We are building a message." They wanted this wreck to be a warning to humans. Instead, it will be a warning to them. The crew nodded. Their faces were tired, but in their eyes was fire. They were no longer miners, no longer workers. They were builders of something that could change everything. Aaron stood at the front and said, "We will not restore the Iron Hope to what it was. We will make it into what it must become. A weapon not against ships alone, but against their arrogance. When it flies again, it will remind the galaxy that humans do not bow." The hall filled with quiet voices agreeing. Some spoke of revenge, others of pride, but all of them felt the same truth. The Iron Hope was not dead. It was rising. The Dirine believed they had ended the story of a single human ship. They were wrong. In the shadows of the wreck field, among sparks and sweat, humans were crafting a new legend. The work on the Iron Hope had only begun in the graveyard, but Aaron knew they could not stay there forever. Too many alien patrols passed through, and every day the risk of discovery grew higher. The wreck field was useful for gathering parts, but it was not a place to build something new. They needed a secret home, a place hidden from scanners, where the ship could rise without fear of interruption. One night, as they studied star maps gathered from old records, Myra pointed to a cluster of asteroids in a forgotten belt. "Here," she said. "The rocks are dense, filled with metal and ice. Their gravity fields will hide our signals. If we dig inside, no one will find us." Aaron studied the location for a long time before nodding. "Then we make our forge there." The journey was dangerous. They had to move the half-repaired Iron Hope through dark lanes, always keeping their engines low to avoid enemy detection. Cargo haulers pushed the broken cruiser slowly, like tugboats pulling a wounded whale. Every moment felt like a risk. If the Dirine saw them, they would be destroyed before they could explain. After weeks of travel, they reached the asteroid belt. The rocks were massive, spinning slowly in the black void. Some were sharp, like blades hanging in space, while others were smooth and heavy with frozen water. Aaron chose the largest one, a giant stone with a hollow crack running through its side. "Perfect," he said. "We will make it our forge." The team worked without rest. Mining lasers cut into the rock, opening a cavern wide enough to hold the ship. They used the debris to cover the entrance, making it invisible to outside eyes. Inside, they installed lamps, life support, and small generators. Slowly, the hollow asteroid transformed into a hidden dockyard. The Iron Hope was brought inside and rested on support frames. For the first time since its fall, it was safe. The crew felt a new energy. They were no longer scavengers sneaking in shadows. They were builders in their own fortress. Myra began to connect alien technology into the human framework. She had studied the weapons of the Dirine during her time as a prisoner, and now she used that knowledge. Their power cells were unstable, but when combined with human stabilizers, they produced energy far greater than before. Aaron reinforced the hull with thick armor taken from old mining rigs, creating a body that could take a beating and still stand. Each member of the team contributed something. One miner turned scrap coils into massive rail cannons. Another created missile launchers using pieces of broken cargo pods. Even the cooks helped, melting metal scraps into sheets that became parts of the inner frame. Everyone had a role, and every role mattered. At night, when the work slowed, the crew gathered in the dim light of the cavern. They told stories of Earth, of families waiting far away, and of battles fought in the past. Their laughter echoed through the stone walls. The project gave them hope, and that hope became fuel for their tired hands. The Iron Hope no longer looked like a broken relic. Its new armor shone with fresh steel. Its engines, rebuilt and fused with alien drives, hummed with restrained power. Inside, new systems flickered to life. It was not a cruiser anymore. It was something stronger, sharper, and faster. One day, Myra ran diagnostics on the new core system. Blue lights lit up across the ship's panels. The sound filled the cavern like a deep heartbeat. The crew stopped what they were doing and listened. For the first time, the ship felt alive. "It breathes," Myra whispered. Aaron placed his hand on the main console. He felt the faint vibration under his palm, steady and powerful. "It is no longer the Iron Hope," he said softly. "This is something greater. This will be our God Killer." The word spread among the crew. God Killer. It was not a name chosen out of pride, but out of truth. The aliens had called themselves gods when they mocked humans, when they destroyed their ships and claimed superiority. This vessel would answer that arrogance. It would stand as proof that humans could take ruin and turn it into fire. From that day forward, the project had a new spirit. Every strike of the hammer, every welded plate, every tightened bolt was done with purpose. The ship was not just metal. It was a promise. Weeks turned into months inside the hidden forge. The asteroid became their home, the ship their heart. The crew lived and worked as one, bound by a single goal. They no longer spoke of if the ship would rise. They spoke only of when. And when the time came, when the God Killer left its stone shelter and returned to the stars, the galaxy would learn a truth it had long forgotten. Humans could be broken, but they could never be kept down. From ashes, they always built again. From defeat, they always rose. The forge was no longer just a place of work. It was the birthplace of a legend. Inside the hollow asteroid, the God Killer ship stood ready. Its frame gleamed with new armor, its weapons stretched like iron claws, and its engines pulsed with hidden strength. Months of effort had turned wreckage into rebirth. The crew no longer saw a broken cruiser, they saw a beast waiting to wake. Aaron stood on the command bridge with Myra and the rest of the senior team. The air was tense. Today was the day they would test the new core. Every wire, every panel, every circuit had been checked again and again, yet fear still lingered. If the system failed, all their work might end in fire. If it succeeded, a new chapter would begin. "Status report," Aaron said in a firm voice. Myra adjusted her console, fingers quick and steady. "All power lines secured. Cooling systems ready. Core is stable but waiting for ignition." The engineer beside her nodded. "Engines connected. Weapons offline until we confirm main energy flow. If something breaks, we can cut them out." Aaron looked at the faces around him. They were tired from long weeks of labor, yet their eyes shone with determination. "This ship was built with our hands," he said, "and today it will breathe with our spirit. Let us see it rise." Myra pressed the activation key. For a moment, nothing happened. The cavern was silent except for the faint drip of melting ice along the asteroid walls. Then, deep inside the ship, a low hum began. It grew louder, spreading through the metal like a heartbeat. Lights flickered across the consoles, first weak, then strong. The bridge glowed with soft blue light as power surged through the veins of the ship. The crew held their breath. Panels lit one after another. The main screen came alive, showing streams of data that none had seen since the old Iron Hope had fallen. The core did not just function, it pulsed with energy beyond anything the humans had imagined. "It is alive," Myra whispered, her voice full of awe. The hum grew into a roar as the engines came online. The entire cavern shook with their power, dust falling from the ceiling. The God Killer strained against the docking clamps, eager to break free. Aaron steadied himself against the railing, but a small smile touched his lips. "It does not want to sleep anymore," he said. The crew erupted into cheers. Some laughed, some cried, and some simply stood in silence, overwhelmed by the sound of rebirth. For them, this was not just a ship. It was proof that humans could take defeat and turn it into power. Myra began testing the systems. Shields responding. Stronger than predicted. Weapons charging at 20% capacity without strain. Engine stable. Aaron nodded. Prepare for movement. The clamps holding the ship released. Slowly, carefully, the God-Killer lifted from the ground. Its engines glowed bright, filling the cavern with light. The ground shook as the vessel hovered, steady and controlled. Aaron's voice was calm, but his heart beat faster than it ever had. Forward thrust, minimal power. The ship moved. It glided across the cavern like a predator stretching after long sleep. The crew watched with wide eyes as the God-Killer circled the hidden dock, turning smoothly, engines balanced and precise. Outside the asteroid, the rocky surface trembled. Small stones floated away into space, shaken loose by the vibration of engines meant to carry war. Anyone scanning nearby might have noticed, but the humans had prepared well. The asteroid's dense walls hid the signals, keeping the secret safe. After minutes of testing, Myra announced, all systems holding. Energy levels at 80%. No breakdowns. The bridge filled with soft applause and relieved voices. Aaron raised a hand for silence. We have built something the galaxy has never seen. But this is only the beginning. A ship is not measured by how it starts. It is measured by what it does. The crew fell quiet, knowing the truth of his words. That night, the humans gathered in the cavern to celebrate. They lit small fires, cooked simple meals, and shared stories. The sound of laughter and music filled the forge for the first time. Some spoke of revenge, others of freedom, but all agreed on one thing: the ship was their shield and their sword. Later, when the celebration ended, Aaron returned alone to the bridge. He walked to the main console and placed his hand on it. The surface was warm, alive with energy. He whispered softly, "You are not the Iron Hope anymore. You are the God-Killer. And together, we will remind them who humans are." The ship answered with a faint vibration, as if it understood. Far beyond the asteroid belt, the Direne celebrated their victories, blind to what was coming. They believed the humans broken, their spirit crushed. But deep in the hidden forge, a legend had awakened. The galaxy did not know it yet, but soon it would hear the roar of the God-Killer. And when it did, no one would forget. The God-Killer was no longer a secret project hidden in stone. It was alive, powerful, and waiting for its first test against the enemy. Aaron knew that sooner or later, they would need to show the galaxy what this ship could do. But the crew could not choose a target carelessly. The first strike had to send a message strong enough to echo across the stars. Myra stood beside Aaron on the bridge as the crew gathered around. "There is a Direne patrol route near the trade lanes," she said, pointing to the map on the screen. "They guard it with a small fleet of cruisers. It is not a large force, but it is feared because they strike without warning. If we destroy them, the story will spread. Everyone will know humans are not finished." Aaron studied the map quietly. The patrol was dangerous but not overwhelming. Perfect for their first trial. "We strike them," he decided. "And we make sure no one mistakes what did it." The crew prepared with care. Every weapon was checked again and again. The rail cannons, long and heavy, gleamed with new coils that hummed with power. The missile bays were loaded with sharp projectiles built from old cargo pods, each carrying warheads strong enough to pierce alien armor. Shields were tested, engines warmed, and every system waited for battle. When the day came, the God-Killer slipped out of the asteroid forge in silence. Its engines burned softly as it moved through the dark. To any scanner, it looked like a normal human ship, perhaps even a damaged one. But inside, the crew was ready. Hours later, the patrol appeared. 5 Direne cruisers drifted across the trade lane, their hulls marked with bright symbols of victory. To them, hunting human ships was easy work. They laughed at the sight of a lone vessel on their scanners. Human craft detected, one of the alien captains said over open comms. Astray. Weak. Easy prey. Aaron listened, his face calm. Let them think so, he whispered to his crew. The Deerine ships approached in formation, weapons charging. They hailed again, mocking voices filling the human bridge. You should not be here, human. Leave your ship, and we may spare you. Aaron gave a short nod to Myra. She tapped the console. Weapons ready. The God-Killer opened fire. The rail cannons thundered, launching slugs at speeds faster than the eye could follow. The first alien cruiser was struck through its center. Its shields collapsed instantly, and the massive round tore it apart. In a single breath, the proud ship was gone. The enemy fleet panicked. They had expected a weak opponent, not a predator. They scrambled to return fire, but the God-Killer moved with speed no human vessel had ever shown before. Its engines roared, and it slid through the battlefield like a blade of light. Missiles streaked out next. They curved around enemy defenses, slamming into two more cruisers. Explosions lit the void, sending fire across the trade lane. Alien voices filled the comms, shouting in confusion. Aaron stood firm. Stay focused. Do not let them regroup. The God-Killer's shields absorbed enemy blasts, bending under the strain but holding strong. The crew watched with awe as their creation proved itself in battle. Each system they had built with their hands now struck down the enemy with power no one thought possible. Within minutes, 3 cruisers were destroyed. The fourth tried to flee, but Myra targeted its engines. A single rail slug shattered them, leaving the ship adrift. The fifth alien vessel hesitated, its captain refusing to advance. Aaron opened a channel to them. You called us weak, he said. You thought we would bow. Tell your leaders what you saw today. Tell them humans rebuild. Then he cut the line, and the God-Killer unleashed one final shot. The fifth cruiser exploded in silence, its wreck spinning into the void. The battle was over. The trade lane was littered with burning fragments of alien metal. For the first time in years, a human ship had not only survived against the Deerine but had destroyed them completely. On the bridge, the crew sat in stunned silence. Then cheers erupted, loud and unstoppable. They embraced one another, their eyes filled with both joy and disbelief. Myra leaned back in her chair, her face glowing with pride. It works, she said softly. It truly works. Aaron looked at the screen, watching the debris scatter across the stars. He felt pride too, but also a deeper weight. This was not just a victory. It was a declaration. The galaxy would hear of it, and the Deerine would not rest until they answered. Enjoy this moment, Aaron told his crew. But remember, this is only the beginning. They will come for us now, and they will come in force. Myra nodded. Then we make ready. We built this ship to fight gods. Let them come. The God-Killer turned away from the battlefield, engines burning bright as it disappeared into the dark lanes of space. Behind it, the wreckage of the patrol floated in silence, a monument to human defiance. And across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. A human ship had destroyed an entire patrol fleet. It was not just any ship. It was something new, something dangerous. The God-Killer's legend had begun. The destruction of the Deerine patrol sent shockwaves across the stars. News traveled faster than any fleet. Merchants whispered of a human ship that tore cruisers apart with a single shot. Refugees told stories of a vessel that rose from ruin to strike like thunder. Even among the Deerine themselves, fear began to spread. They had crushed humans many times before, but this was different. This was not survival. This was defiance. In the great chambers of the Deerine War Council, their leaders shouted in anger. They could not allow a single human ship to shame them. To lose to a fleet was one thing, but to be defeated by a lone vessel was an insult too great to ignore. They swore the God-Killer would be destroyed, and they gathered fleets from every corner of their empire. Back in the hidden forge, the humans knew the storm was coming. Aaron stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes calm but sharp. "They will come with everything they have," he said. "This battle will not be like the patrol. It will be greater, heavier, and more dangerous. But if we win, we will show the galaxy that humans cannot be broken." Myra worked beside him, scanning maps of nearby systems. "We cannot meet them in open space," she said. "Their numbers will crush us. We must choose the battlefield." The crew gathered to plan. They studied asteroid belts, gas clouds, and broken stations. Finally, they chose a dense cluster of rocks, a maze of stone where large fleets would struggle to move. There, the God-Killer could hide, strike, and vanish. Days later, the Dirine Armada arrived. Dozens of ships entered the system, their hulls glowing with pride and fury. They believed the humans would flee. Instead, silence greeted them. No signal, no movement, only drifting asteroids. Inside the belt, the God-Killer waited. "Patience," Aaron whispered to his crew. "Let them believe we are gone." The alien fleet split into groups, pushing between the rocks. Their massive cruisers scraped against stone as they searched for their prey. That was when the first strike came. A rail slug shot out of the shadows, cutting straight through one cruiser's side. The ship exploded, pieces of metal slamming into nearby rocks. Before the others could respond, missiles streaked out, weaving through the asteroid field and striking another target. Two ships were gone before the Dirine even saw their enemy. The Armada roared in anger. Weapons fired blindly into the rocks, smashing asteroids into dust. But the God-Killer moved like a shadow, darting between cover, striking from places they least expected. Every attack was precise, every shot deadly. On the bridge, Myra guided the targeting systems. "Strike engines first. Leave them drifting. Make them fear the dark." One by one, alien ships lost power and spun helplessly. Others tried to flee deeper into the belt, but the God-Killer chased them with relentless speed. The crew worked as one, every person focused, every hand steady. Still, the battle was not without danger. At one point, 3 Dirine cruisers cornered the God-Killer, surrounding it with heavy fire. The shields groaned, sparks flew across the bridge, and the hull shook under the strain. For a moment, it seemed the end had come. Aaron stood tall, his voice steady. "Push forward. Through them, not away." The God-Killer surged ahead, engines roaring. It smashed through the middle, firing rail cannons point blank. One cruiser was torn in half, the second lost its bridge, and the third was rammed against a rock, its body breaking apart. The humans cheered, their fear replaced with fire. The battle stretched for hours, but the result never changed. The armada that had come to crush the humans was torn apart piece by piece. Some ships burned, others drifted, and only a handful managed to escape the belt. At last, silence returned. The asteroid field was littered with wreckage, glowing fires, and drifting debris. The God-Killer emerged from the shadows, scarred but unbroken. On the bridge, the crew sat in silence, stunned by what they had achieved. Myra leaned against her console, exhausted but smiling. "We faced an armada," she said softly, "and we stand." Aaron looked at the faces around him. He saw pride, strength, and unity. He knew the Dirine would not stop, but he also knew the galaxy had witnessed something impossible. Humans had taken ruin and turned it into a weapon that even empires feared. "Today," Aaron said, his voice echoing across the bridge, "we proved that humans do not kneel. They will call us stubborn. They will call us reckless. But after this day, they will also call us dangerous." The crew erupted into cheers once more. Their ship floated among the wreckage, a dark figure against the stars, a legend forged in fire. Far away, whispers spread again. A god-killer had faced an armada and lived. The story grew with every retelling, and in those stories, humans became more than survivors. They became the ones who rose higher with every fall. And in the heart of the hidden forge, one truth shone brighter than ever: the war was not over, but the humans had already changed its course. The asteroid field was silent now. Only the faint glow of wreckage drifted across the void, a reminder of the battle that had shaken the galaxy. The god-killer stood at the center of it, scarred and battered, but alive. To the crew, it was more than a ship. It was proof that humans could take defeat and turn it into power. Aaron stood on the bridge, looking at the broken remains of the Dirine Armada. "They will come again," he said. His voice was calm, but heavy. "Next time, they will not underestimate us. They will bring more fleets. Stronger fleets. Perhaps even weapons we have never seen." Myra looked up from her console, her eyes steady. "And so will we," she replied. "We will not stop building. We will not stop fighting. If they wish to test us, we will show them again." The crew was weary but filled with pride. For many of them, survival had always been enough. But now, survival was no longer the only goal. Now they carried something larger: the hope of all humans who had been beaten down, enslaved, or ignored by empires greater than them. News of the battle spread like fire across the stars. Merchants, refugees, and travelers carried the tale of a human ship that had faced an armada and lived. Entire colonies that once lived in fear began to stand a little taller. Among alien races too, whispers grew. If humans could do this, what else were they capable of? One night, when the ship was quiet, Aaron walked alone through the corridors. His hands touched the walls of the god-killer. The metal was rough in places, scarred from battle, patched by human hands. He thought of how the ship had once been a broken hulk, disabled and forgotten. Now it was something greater, something no alien empire could ignore. He knew it was more than a weapon. It was a symbol. The next day, the crew gathered in the hangar, where supplies and salvaged parts from the wrecked Dirine ships were piled high. "We will rebuild again," Aaron told them. "Every battle will leave scars, but every scar will make us stronger. We are no longer just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human who believes they are too small to rise." Myra stepped forward. "And we are not alone anymore," she added. "Already, others reach out to us. Small groups, hidden colonies, even some alien allies. They see what we have done. They want to stand beside us." The crew cheered, their tired faces filled with new energy. They were no longer just soldiers or survivors. They were builders of a future that had once seemed impossible. But the Dirine were not silent. In their council halls, the defeat burned like fire. To lose to one ship was an insult they could not endure. They began planning new weapons, new traps, new ways to crush the humans. Yet in their pride, they made a mistake. They believed they were still hunting a broken race. They did not yet understand that something greater had begun. The god-killer moved from system to system, striking fast, vanishing into shadows, and leaving wreckage behind. Each victory was small compared to the armadas of the Dirine, but each one carried meaning. It showed the galaxy that humans were not prey, not weak, not forgotten. In time, the name of the ship became legend. Traders told of it in hushed tones. Children on distant colonies dreamed of it. Even enemies spoke of it with unease. Some called it a ghost ship. Others called it the shadow of Earth. But to humans, it was hope given form. On the bridge, Myra once asked Aaron a question. "Do you think we will win this war?" Aaron did not answer at once. He looked at the stars, endless and cold. Then he said, "Perhaps not in one lifetime. But we are planting something greater than victory. We are planting belief. That is what will outlast us. The crew carried those words with them. They knew they might fall in battle one day. But they also knew that what they had begun could not be erased. Because every colony that rose, every human who fought back, every story told in the dark, it all began with them. And so the God Killer sailed on. Through broken stations, through nebulae and shadowed worlds, it continued to fight. Each strike was more than a battle. It was a message. Humans would not kneel. In time, when the Dirine and other empires looked back, they would not remember the humans as weak or broken. They would remember the day a ruined ship was rebuilt into something greater. They would remember the crew that turned scraps into fire, fear into courage, and defeat into defiance. They would remember the God Killer. And in that memory, the legacy of humanity would burn brighter than any star.